Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
Welcome to another episode of Philly Fortune Talks, where we highlight the journeys of Philadelphia's most dynamic and influential entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with David Bokman, a seasoned real estate investor and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. David is the CEO of Bachman, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I said it wrong the first time, so I apologize. David is
Okay.
the CEO of Bachman Investment Group, a company renowned for its professionalism and expertise in large-scale off-market development deals in Philadelphia. In 2017 alone, David sold over $9.3 million in real estate, and his company has grown tenfold since its inception. Known for his no-nonsense approach to business, David brings wealth of experience from closing multi-million-dollar deals for Fortune 500 companies to the real estate world. Beyond his professional achievements, David is a dedicated husband, father, and lifelong martial arts, practicing Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu for over 30 years. His discipline and integrity, rooted in his meditation practices and teachings of the Buddha, have shaped his approach to both life and business. David is also coaching men, helping them become the best versions of themselves through his unique program that emphasizes honor, discipline, health, and integrity. Join us as we delve into David Bokman's inspiring journey, exploring his leadership in real estate, his commitment to personal growth, and his mission to empower others. Let's get started on Philly Fortune Talks. David, pleasure to have you, man.
Thanks, brother. That's one hell of an intro.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I tried to do my best.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So give the listeners a little, besides the intro that I gave you, why you got into real estate, what drawed your entrepreneurial spirit to that?
Honestly, I've told this story before. Really, nothing really drew me to real estate. Like my past was I was a medical device rep and like a consultant, and I was in the corporate world. And really, I had no interest in anything else. I was kind of like just laser focused in that realm, and that's what I thought I was always going to do. But coincidentally, my brother-in-law sent me a book on wholesaling. And he said, you should read this book. And he goes, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I would be doing this. And we had some people that we knew that were doing that already. I just hadn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. But because it was my brother-in-law who sent me that ebook, I just kind of let it sit in my email bin for a while. I didn't really take it too serious. But I was experiencing a lot of change at that time in my professional career, and I didn't delete that email, and something just kind of drew me to it. I ended up opening up the ebook, started reading it, and I finished it in about a day and a half, something like that. It wasn't a very long ebook, but I understood it because I understood what a wholesaler was in other industries. And I just got this rush of like, because it was written by a local guy, and I'm sure you know who it is. But I was like, if he could do it, I could do it better.
Of course.
And literally, I did what they tell you to do when you first get started. And I had my first deal within 30 days. I ended up quitting my job. Well, I ended up getting fired, but I was in my head, I was quitting.
Yeah.
Because I already knew that I had something else that I could do and was going to help me really build a lifestyle that I wanted. So nothing really drew me to it until it fell on my lap. And then once I got hooked in, I got sucked in completely.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, don't like real estate per se, but it's like that vehicle for them, right? Or they don't want to necessarily. It's not like this thing that's like, oh my God, let's go do real estate. But it's like that vehicle that can take them where they want to go.
Yeah, it's hard, especially if, there's different areas, you're working on the business or in the business, but there's different levels of stress. Like there's nothing easy about it, right? Like you're dealing with other people, other personalities, you're judging, not judging, but like you're hoping that what they say is actually true. Our industry is really, really crazy, regardless of you're a title company or an agent, whatever, it's wild sometimes, right? And depending on where you are in the country, it's like the Wild West.
I could totally attest to that. It can be pretty cutthroat at times, and you never know, uh, who's on your side or who's not.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's a battle to the end sometimes, right?
yeah.
Sometimes you lose deals and you got to get them back, and so there's a lot of things that people don't really understand, that what actually goes into bringing a deal from A to Z, and getting it to close. So,
So your, real estate career spans over 2 decades. Can you share a moment early on in your career that significantly shaped your path?
so I'll edit that a little bit. Real estate career, not 2 decades. Real estate career only in 2015.
Okay.
But like professional career is definitely like,
Entrepreneurship.
yeah, so obviously I've been in the corporate world for a little while. I had an e-commerce company before, but I grew up in small business. Both my parents came here. They migrated from Russia at the time. I was born here, and both my parents, I kind of they ended up having their own businesses, but I grew up watching them with this entrepreneurial spirit. Start a business, maybe fail, go on to the next one. Um, so that was something that I've always been a part of. I've always had like a family business, but professionally, working for like Fortune 500 companies, startup companies, and then having my own, I've got a good amount of experience from like all different sides. But real estate just since 2015, man. So
Okay,
it's only
2015.
we're coming up on
So
just one decade soon.
so what
But
motivated you to kind of, start Bokman Investment Group, and how did you envision its growth from, the inception till, did you think it was going to go this far till now?
honestly, I had no idea. My first year, I did about 8 or 9 deals. Nothing really crazy, but I realized I could take care. I could actually run a company. I could actually do this. That was the what I wanted to do. But year two, we were at 43 deals. So it wasn't a slow ramp up. It ramped up really, really fast. And I was doing a combination of, residential and commercial deals. And that's kind of like
Okay.
what put me on the map. But I had no envision that it was gonna, be moving in that direction that fast at all.
So you scaled really quickly.
Yeah.
What key strategies do you think were instrumental in that success?
Looking back at it now, I probably would have done a lot of things differently. I think I didn't have any mentors. So, I would think
Wow.
going back, I would probably would have seeked out more mentorship and guidance. But I think because things were working so well at the time, I just decided to just keep pushing forward and really keep my focus in that realm, you know. Um, Man, it's such a hard question to answer, to be
Yeah,
honest with you, Jake.
strategies, skill sets, traits.
I knew what the other wholesalers were doing wrong. I knew what the holes in their games were. And a lot of it was people were just missing systems and processes. And I knew that that's something that I had coming from like the corporate world. That was so that part of that mindset of like I can do things better, right? So like I built better systems and processes. I built better relationships, better marketing campaigns. So like the strategy for me was to always have like a higher level of customer service. Even like
Okay.
when we would go out to like the sellers' homes, like my guys were always dressed up. Like even when I did it in the very beginning, like I was dressed up, not in a suit, but it wasn't the contractor coming in to see them, right? It was somebody like really professional, and that's really like what stood out. So I think that
Mhm.
was that was really the strategy from day one, is keep it super professional, um, and just only do win-win situations.
Yeah,
If that sort of makes sense.
absolutely. I still go on to sites to look at deals and whatnot. And it's funny, how some of these wholesalers come up and they're dressed, and it's just like, man, you have the balls to show up like this. Like, I get it. You're your own boss, blah, 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 whatever. You run your own show, but at least be presentable, man. You're in slacks, you got dirty shoes, a busted t-shirt. It's like, come on, man. Like,
Especially in the summertime, right?
yeah, it's like just, be presentable, be professional. Obviously, you are a representation of the way you look at all times. It doesn't hurt to put on something nice, a little decent,
Yeah.
right? So no,
But
that goes a
but
long way.
but one thing I'll mention real quick, just success. I think like one of the things that I would put at the very, very top would be my network. If
Hmm.
I closed 50 deals in a specific year, half of that came directly through my network. And I'm talking about other wholesalers, other agents, other brokers, other investors that I built relationships with. And I think that's what really propelled me because everybody knew that I could move these deals for them at a high price, at a quick, in a quick time frame. So I think like the relationships that I built and my network, and obviously you can build network with anybody, but if you don't show any value,
Right.
nothing really happens. So I think that like I did a really good job of being able to provide value for a lot of people, which incentivized them to give me more deals. And that's sort of how I built my business, and I think that's what kind of propelled me and like sustained me through all these years. And obviously working with like commercial properties, like most wholesalers are only dealing with like if it's a single family home, anything out of that realm is like they don't know what to do with it, right? So
Right.
like I slowly ventured into land and then multifamily and then portfolios, commercial, I've sold an entire block in Philly before, and now into like self-storage facilities. It's all really the same thing, but just being able to kind of reinvent myself as the years have gone by has been like a big success for me.
So talk about, your transition, maybe not a transition, but your bigger deals, right? Your development deals, land deals, buying a whole city block. Describe a particular challenging deal that you closed and how you navigated through it.
So we'll talk about the city block one because that was challenging. Just getting it to the closing table. I've never been part of a closing like that before, where there was lawyers involved on one side, and then on the other side, there
Wow.
was also attorneys, and then people that were called in on like speakerphone. It lasted several hours. There was somebody that was there actually helping me because they knew more of the language and the contracts than I did. But basically, it got to a point where there was about a $30,000 difference and nobody wanted to budge. And we're talking about a multi-million-dollar deal. So $30,000, right?
Pennies.
But that's where we were. So my idea was to escrow that amount out of my pay so that we could facilitate the deal moving forward. So, that's something that wouldn't be uncommon. Not too many agents would do something like that, but that would be something that would be not common to happen. But I've had to do that several times before just to be able to get a deal to move forward. And I got that money back, but
Okay.
several months down the road, because some of those contracts had stipulations that things needed to happen at a certain time period before that escrow could be released. So I was just placing a bet, but all I really cared about was getting the deal closed. So I was willing to forfeit 30 grand if I had to.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Because that was my question. I was like, okay, you put it in escrow. What does
Yeah.
that look like? Did you get it back? Did it just sit on the sidelines? How'd that work?
Yeah, for that particular one, it took I think somewhere between 6 and 8 months before I saw that money again.
Okay.
But yeah, it was clearly worth it. So, that's definitely one that I can like think of right away.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely worth it. It's a whole city block. That's a staple deal in the books for sure. Get it done, and that's a tremendous amount of credibility too. So it's like, yeah, and I'm sure many deals came from that by working with those people.
Yeah, 100%. The seller was a good friend of mine, so I constantly got deals from him, fed to me that way. So it's a win all around.
Yeah. So when building your team for Bachman Investment Group, what qualities did you prioritize?
Like when I hired people.
Yeah.
Well, I've since scaled back for sure. Obviously COVID changed a lot of things, and we can
Hmm.
talk about that if you want. But um, the first thing that I hired was just like overall like good people, like you hear a lot of horror stories about how, people burn their bridges and just crazy kind of bad actors, right? So like, and people doing unethical things.
Yeah.
So first thing for me was just always like character. But I actually got pretty lucky. A good friend of mine at the time, just as I was starting to really, really grow, he had sold his business and he was kind of looking for something new to do. And coincidentally, I had happened to close a big deal at that time, and I was kind of just sharing with him. And I was like, "Are you interested?" And he was like, "Yeah, I am." And he ended up being with me for like about 3 years. And then, when COVID happened, things kind of changed, and I ended up getting him a job for, with a different company. I only other had one other like real person. He's still with me, and he's been with me for about 4 years. Everyone else I've had has been pretty virtual.
Yep.
I've always operated at like a lean, mean type of operation. Um, so I wouldn't get something until like I absolutely needed it,
Hmm.
so including like assistance and things like that. So um, I've always grown like slow and steady, but that's as big as the team's ever been. I think maybe 5, 6 people at its max.
Okay.
Right now it's just, 3 people total, and that's it.
Got it. Yeah, I had everything virtual, 3 people, Philippines, but I shut down the team 2 years ago because my referral system has just been so good that I don't have to do anything like that anymore. I thought I did, but I didn't. So I don't, I don't need to run a full operation, like managing people and systems and processes. It's just like the deal flow is good now.
Yeah, so same with me. I stopped paying for marketing. I still get like organic leads through website, but really my network is my main source of lead flow. Because of the assets that I deal in, I get them from all over the place.
Yeah.
That why really pay for marketing? As much as I love wholesaling, wholesaling residential properties does not like give me joy. A lot of them are headache stuff, and we do it just because the leads are still coming in. But my focus is on, building relationships and closing larger deals.
Yep. Yeah, I see a lot of people moving towards that because wholesaling is getting you have all these influencers and everything like that. So wholesaling is everybody's wholesaling, right?
Hmm.
I've only ever wholesaled like 2 deals in my whole career. It's an art, it's a knack. I'm good. Just sell me the deals and let me build my portfolio, and I'm good. I don't want anything to do with that because it's stressful. It's a lot of work for
Yeah,
sure, But yeah, bigger assets, same amount of work, more reward.
yeah, that's where I want to be.
So how has your, professional and personal commitments, kind of jive together? Because you practice Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, meditation. How's that influenced your approach through business and life?
Man, I'm still learning that, quite honestly. When I started doing real estate in 2015, I was single. Now I'm married with two kids, right? So, how do you manage family life, running a business, running another business, and doing things for yourself also? Yeah, it's super, super challenging. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a soon to be 6-month-old son. So there's so many challenges. My For me personally, how I juggle everything is making sure that like I take care of myself first. And that could mean working out, going for a walk. For other people, it's something different, but making sure that I take care, fill my cup so that I can help fill everybody
Oh,
else's.
others, yeah.
Yeah. So that's like how I do it. I just prepare and I show up. It's got its challenges. And for me personally, like I'm not like a big multitasker. I just do one thing at a time, right? So if there's challenges or if there are fires that come up, like I'm gonna deal with that and then I'll move on to the next thing. So I think the martial arts has like helped because I've been doing it since I was, 5 years old. I think that's always helped keep me like cool, calm, and collected. I faced all kinds of challenges, so being able to be cool under pressure is kind of like uh, one of the things that I take from the training. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's really how I just deal with everything, right? Like everything's always going to be stressful and under pressure, and we live in this like fast-paced life, but it's all about how like you feel about it, right? And some people are just like, I can't handle it. And for me, it's just like it is what it is, right?
Yeah, definitely. My father threw me into the gym when I was 11 or 12. Kind of like your experience with Muay Thai and whatnot. And he threw me in with the trainers, and he was like pretty much beat his ass and make this boy a man real quick. And my mom was just always like, "Yo, what is going on?" And my nose would be bleeding, and be like, "Nah, you're getting back in there." And I'm like 12, 13 years old, and this guy's like 30, just pummeling my face. I got to age 14, and my dad lied about my age and started putting me in the ring. He signed off, said I was 21 years old, and I'm 14 years old fighting guys that are like, 28, 30, up in like this gym in Plymouth meeting and all over the place. But it definitely helped with, like you said, one, discipline, the mindset under pressure, especially when there's
Yeah,
fear involved, and it keeps you level head. Now I don't freak out about the big shit. It's the little shit. So
yeah.
that's what I'm working on now.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Every day presents its own challenges, so I just deal with each day at a time.
So how do you approach like financial planning for yourself and your business to make sure that you're on track for growth?
Another hard question from Jake. I'm not that's probably not my strength. If you were ever to ask somebody what are your strengths and your weaknesses, like I'm not big into like financial planning per se. Obviously a lot, as I mentioned to you, a lot has changed for me over the years. Like priorities have changed. I
Hmm.
went from single when I started to married with two kids. So I would say that's also like a work in progress, in terms of like what investment strategies we're taking for the future. I know that, one of my biggest regrets is not keeping enough properties.
Yeah.
I wholesaled so many, average 50, 60 per year for, 7, 8 years. Um, Maybe kept a small portion, but like looking back, I wish like basically like I'm looking back at the last 8 years and being like, okay, what mistakes did I make and what can I learn from them so I can correct it moving forward? So you're asking me this question at a time in my life where I'm moving forward, learning from a lot of the mistakes that I made in the past. Because if I had a mentor or something like that, I probably would have shortened up that learning curve. But just doing it yourself, because people don't understand like running a business, that's everything, right? Like you're the accountant, you're the CEO, the CFO, the COO, your customer service sometimes, right? And a lot of people don't have that skill. Like I was really good at sales and marketing, but I was not the best at keeping track of the data or maybe accounting per se. So we're in the process of kind of planning for the first time as a family now, what's important to us, what we want to do in the future. Um, maybe not living in the United States at some point,
Mhm.
depending on what goes on in this country,
I hear you on that. I'm about to get my second passport.
Right, if Florida's great, but who knows? There's other places that are nicer and cheaper, and so I think we're in the process of doing that now. But like I said, looking back at some of the mistakes, like I wish I would have had more properties, and that's kind of like what I want to do now is acquire more from my portfolio, something that you mentioned, right? So um, we're doing all that now, but it's not something that was like a strong suit for me in the past.
Yeah, that comes from a lot of real estate investors that I've always talked to. It's like I wish I would have kept more properties. And I say the same thing. Like I got started in 2016. I was 20, 21 years old, just dropped out of college. And like all the flips that I did in the beginning, I'm like, oh man, I wish I kept that. I wish I kept that. I wish I kept that. But like come like 2020, COVID hit, and like the market started getting real weird. And I was like, all right, economics is economics. this financial system is shit right now. It doesn't make any sense. So when is it going to stop? When is it going to break? So I was like, all right, I have no passive. I had like 7 rentals at the time. I had no passive income. So from there on, I looked at every single deal. How can I keep it? How can I burr out of that? And then we've, built a substantial portfolio since then. But I like changed that mindset because flipping was like so transactional. I didn't feel purposeful. I had no fulfillment. It was like running after that big check again and again and again and having to do the work over and over again. Where with like you keep a property, you get that check every single month. It's purposeful. You're giving people somewhere to live, all this stuff. Um, and that's how I've looked at real estate for the last, going on 5 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say I'm just getting there now. Because once again, the way I was looking at it in the past, when I first got started, I was like, why would I want to keep anything and deal with the headache? Why do I want to do flip? Even I've done flips, and obviously I have rental properties, but that was my mindset, is like, I'd rather just take this 10, 20, 30, 40, $100,000 check now rather than deal with anything in the future.
Yeah, I
And,
told. Sorry.
no, 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 I was just gonna say, and it took me up until, I'd say about a year ago for my mindset really to start shifting. So you could say I'm a late bloomer when it comes to that.
But I mean, it's crazy though. You haven't. It's not, well, not crazy, but you never had you didn't have a mentor getting started, and you amassed this crazy success just by like, doing it on your own. So it's like, hey, props to you.
Yeah, I mean that's, if anybody, I guess that's what I would want anyone listening to this to like get out of it, right? Like you can literally do anything you want. You just have to put the work in, and that's what I did. I just literally followed the instructions that were given to me, and they just happened to be free, right? They were just basic instructions to get you started, right? But if you put in the time and the effort, like, you can literally do it. And then if you open up your mind and see what else is possible, then you'll start to see other opportunities, right? So
Right.
I think I just executed, saw other opportunities, and took them.
Yeah, but you also had that track record in sales with the medical device. So you already had like really dialed in system, like you knew systems and processes where majority of people, coming out of the gate, they buy a course online. They've never really been in corporate. So they're just like starting off with, some Joe Schmo behind a mic that maybe has done it, maybe hasn't. That's the thing
Mhm.
with gurus and gurus these days. So you already had like a runway, it sounds like, to be able to make that happen, and just learning as you go from other wholesalers that you learn from and rub shoulders with in the Philadelphia market.
Yeah, absolutely. We had some close friends that were doing that at the time. I just didn't know that. I had no idea until I got into the industry. So there was always somebody that I could call and ask a question to. But yeah, I was just pretty persistent in like, this is what I was going to do, and this is what I was going to make happen.
Cool, cool. So can you share, more about your men's program and what made that, what inspired you to do that?
So my wife is very unique. Just to give you some context, like when I met her, she had been like traveling for the last 10 years, like literally living out of a suitcase. Like, what woman do you know lives out of one suitcase? Like, she literally had, you're laughing, but I'm dead serious,
I bet you are.
She grew up very unconventionally, but literally she had like one pair of shoes, like two pairs of pants, like um we had a home birth, something that is totally foreign to majority of our culture.
Hmm.
Um, Foreign to me, obviously, and I didn't really have a whole lot of like support or anyone to talk to. Um, I knew that like I loved her, but we were like not connecting. This is like after we found out we were pregnant and then we had the baby, like things were really hard, right? Like it's not like we learned how to become a father and a husband, right? We kind of model after like what we saw with our parents.
Right.
But I was really struggling at that time. At the point where like I didn't know if the relationship was going to last. I mean, we live in a culture where there's like, we're at 50% plus divorce rate.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a real thing. I knew that I didn't want to lose my daughter. I knew that like something was like really wrong. I couldn't like express myself. I don't know why. And she kind of introduced me to men's work. I had no idea what that was, and then something kind of like gravitated me to it. And all, you know, like men don't really talk like women talk, right?
No,
Like
not at all.
like women get together, they talk about everything, they share what's going on, their feelings, all that stuff. Like guys don't do that, right? Guys are really like the lone wolves.
Yeah.
They hold everything in
You
until it's
know,
like
don't cry, don't talk about your weaknesses.
right, right. And that's
Yeah.
all from like this culture that we grew up in. But anyway, you know, I ended up seeking help. I was in like a men's group. And one thing profound that I learned that will share with you guys is there was like maybe 12 other guys. And like just when I say men's circle, like just in your mind, think about like way back in the day, men live, you know, we're all living outside. Men get around the fire, right? And like share stories and talk about things and pass on information. So like that's what I talk about when I say like men's circle, right? So anyway, I was in one of these men's circles, and out of the 12 guys that were in that thing, I was the only one that hasn't already lost something, meaning like I haven't gone through a divorce or a breakup or whatever the case may be. They were all there after the fact something had happened, right? They lost their wife and now they're trying to better themselves. So I realized like, oh shit, like I haven't lost anything yet. But I was at the borderline.
Yeah.
So, you know, men's work really just helped me like get into groups with other men to like talk about what is going on. And then, you know, after that, I got like one-on-one help with somebody. You can call it a therapist, whatever you want, but it's another guy. Um, and he got me to understand like what I was going through at that time. And it really helped me understand what was going on. And it helped me like better communicate with my partner and help us like build a relationship better. So it was super, super important. And there's like, you know, men's groups all over the place. But that's like and I've been doing that for the last like 5 years. And so the last year or so, you know, I wouldn't say that, you know, getting burnt out from real estate, but it's not like my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of mentioned that earlier, right? About
Yeah.
purpose. Like I don't get up in the morning to like, you know, today's another great day of real estate. You know, the money's great, you know, money's great and being able to do things is great. That's great. But like really purpose is just like being able to give back and help other people. And for me, like I can see myself being able to help other men. And I feel like we're living in this world where like men are getting like dumbed down on and kind of like
Mhm.
shit on, right? And like you see all this stuff about like transgender stuff, but it's always a man dressed as a woman. We never hear anything about like women dressed as men, right? Like
Right.
that doesn't make the news headlines. It's always the guy, right? So like I feel like with a combination of everything that's going on in the world, everything that I've been through, learning about myself, learning about how to communicate, you know, birth, all that stuff, especially like home birth, right? Like I had no help with that. So I felt like I could give back and help other men. So before I actually launched my like little program, I just kind of just did a whole social media thing. If there's any guys that want to just like talk about anything, just reach out. And within the first week, there was like 25 guys. And out of the 25, like 90% were all dealing with the same thing. So I was like, I could help people. Um, then I was like, you know, fuck it. Let me start doing something like that. And there's some real passion there to like continue learning and bettering myself, but also helping other people along the way. Because there's just no one to really help you with a lot of things that you're going through, especially as a man, right?
Right.
So, and I felt like a lot of people knew who I was. A lot of people respected me in a lot of different ways. So for me to come out and do something like this, um, you know, I thought was just like the right thing to do. So yeah, it's a small project I'm working on. We'll see where it takes me.
Yeah, I think it's super important because, like you said, you don't see anything about like regular men's health, or like how's the regular men doing or whatever. And I think, at least my experience being raised by a definite alpha male, it's like, we don't talk about your problems. We don't talk about, there's no crying. You're not going to get beat up. You can get punched in the face, but you're never going to take, you're never going to back down. Right. Like, just, you're a man. There's no crying, there's no emotions, there's nothing. You bottle that shit up and you take it to the grave. And growing up like that, it does a certain thing to you. And then there is issues that arise, or you have problems with your significant other. It's like you don't know how to talk about it. You don't know how to conversate how you feel or what's going through your head and all that stuff. And it just bottles up, and sometimes people snap, and sometimes, it just keeps going on, and you keep pushing that can down the road. So, I joined a men's group, about 2 years ago, and it's pretty cool. You just average day guys opening up, talking about their problems like nothing's even wrong. Like,
Yeah.
well, obviously something's wrong because we're talking about problems, right? We're there for a solution. But it's like, oh well, this guy's talking about a problem he's going through. This guy's talking about a problem. And I'm like the younger guy in the group too. So it's like there's some deep wisdom going on, like, oh, this guy's going for divorce. He lost his wife, lost a kid, or whatever it may be, got laid off. And I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong. So how could I learn from this?
Yeah.
And I just think that what you're doing with that is super mission based, super purposeful, and that North Star, that gives you a greater feeling in life.
100%, man. So like I said, we'll see what happens, but I feel good about that. And like you said, we all we all need it, especially for guys who grew up like that, and especially for entrepreneurs, because what I found is that, like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're dealing with your spouse and she's talking to you or whatever, you're just trying to like fix everything.
Yeah.
And that's not what she wants. She doesn't want to be fixed. She wants to be she wants to be heard,
Heard. Yep.
not fixed. And as an entrepreneur, like, most guys don't work that way. They want to like stop the conversation and be like, well, you should have done this or should have done that. So like for entrepreneurs, even more so, like the importance of like just understanding this, unless you're cool with where it's going to go. And most of the time it goes to divorce. And there's one guy that I follow on social media. I won't give his name out. I don't need to really give anybody names or props, but the quote that he always says is like, I was at that point where my wife was going to leave me, but if I didn't step up,
I
like
know.
I would be failing my kids. Like I would be failing. Like, you have to step up, and I think out of those 50% of divorces or higher, like how many times, I'm not saying it's always the guy's fault, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, how many times could we have just like taken a step back, made one little change to be able to save that relationship? Why do we have to like have like some kind of like crazy thing happen to us before we realize now we need to go change? And that's like the unfortunate thing, because you see most of the other side, right? You see like something happened to the guy and now he's seeking help. But imagine if we were able to seek help in those moments, right?
Right.
And save those situations, like, how many more families there would be together. So it's not easy.
Yeah, there's this very spiritual guy on social media. He says taking a knee. If you know who that is, he white hair, whatnot. Um,
I don't think I've seen this one.
oh no,
To-
he's a pretty popular like men's warrior. Uh, and he went through trials and tribulations with his wife and whatnot, and he said his like whole thing is like taking a knee. Like, yeah, as a male, you don't surrender, right? He was like, but I had to surrender and knew, like, finally tell myself that the way I was going about it was wrong, so I took a knee to my wife to figure stuff out. But
I
anyway,
like it. I like it. I like it. You have to send me him.
I definitely will. He's good. I mean, it's definitely on track with the men's program. He has a men's program and everything like that. So, I'll definitely send that over.
Cool, man.
For anybody that's aspiring to be, whether it's a real estate investor, entrepreneur, or get into um, personal development, men's personal development, or be an entrepreneur, what aspiring advice would you give someone like that?
Man, there's just like no shortcuts, right? Like I think we all have like this inner voice in our head that is telling us what we should be doing daily, right? So like if you tell yourself you should be getting up early in the morning and going and working out and not doing that, you're basically letting yourself down all the time. So how can you have like trust in yourself,
Mm,
right? If you actually want to do anything, you have to put in the action and in the work. And for me, like when I decided that I was going to go full in on real estate, I did everything, man. I was meditating. I was working out twice a day. I was journaling. I was doing breath work. I'm not saying you have to do all these things, but for me, these were all the things that I knew I needed to be doing to be able to like elevate myself to the next level.
mm,
And these are all things that like I pushed aside or like made excuses for. Like, oh, I can't do this or I don't have time for that. Like I made time for these things. I would not have a family right now if it wasn't for real estate and if it wasn't for me doing all the little things and all the little wins that I do every single day. So like really the only advice I have is like there's no like shortcuts. Like there's no like get rich quick schemes, like get that out of your head, like
damn, that's
like
there was.
there are definitely people that can make it happen really, really, really fast. I definitely I don't know many of them, but they're out there. But there's no shortcuts, just put in the work and do the things you say you're going to do, build a good reputation for yourself. And then like your network is everything. And then finally, just like provide value. Like asking somebody for coffee so you can pick their brain is not is not value, right?
No,
Find ways to really provide value for people in your network.
yeah,
And I think if you focus on those things along with elevating yourself, because if you don't elevate yourself, and for me, that means physically by working out, mentally by reading or meditating or doing something that's like mentally stimulating, and spiritually as well. So like for me, I need to be able to be doing those things in some type of facet to make sure that I'm at a certain level, at a certain frequency.
frequency, yeah.
So for me, if you do those things, like good things will happen. If you don't do anything and just do the same thing every day, same thing is going to happen, right?
Hamster
Like
wheel.
nothing is just going to happen on its own, right? So little bit of effort, little bit of work will go like really a long way. I didn't come from money. No one in my family was really like financially literate. Everyone was really like keeping up with the Joneses.
Hmm.
That affected me definitely in my 20s. I made lots and lots of mistakes, created lots and lots of debt. But once I was able to really fix one or two things in my life, I was able to really fix everything else. And things really elevated from there. So yeah, put in the work, elevate yourself, good things will happen.
Yeah, it's funny that you said the pick my brain thing. I think a lot of people use that, especially when they're new into an industry and they see like the expert out there, like text them. They're like, "Hey, man, can I grab you a coffee? That coffee costs $5, man. Like, you think my time's worth $5?" And then you say, "Can I pick your brain?" It's like, that sounds pretty painful. I don't want nobody picking at my brain.
Yeah.
That's what I say nowadays. I mean, like, I get a text, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" I'm like, "Damn, man, picking my brain. I mean, what do you got to open me up or something?" They're like, "Oh, well," and then there's a different way to ask it for it,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I live by like the pillars of wealth, I call it, like health, wealth, love, happiness, contribution, and spirituality. If you live by those things and you value all of them the same, I think life is good. Because if you don't, then you're gonna be, unbalanced in something else.
Yeah, 100%. And that's always going to be a work in progress, right? But I think,
For
like you
sure.
said, if you have those things there holding you as like the base, then you can't go wrong. Yeah.
And that's what an accountability group is, like a men's group, to make sure that you're working on all of them. They're keeping, a steady vibration, a steady frequency across all boards.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you joined one. And that's something else that I hope somebody else gets out of this is like, it's okay to talk to other men about that are important issues going on in your life rather than, what's going on in sports. So, yeah, I think that's important. I mean, it's great that you're talking about it as well. I think it should be like an important issue for a lot of guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like the real needle mover here. So, for anybody listening right now, how can they connect with you and learn more about your men's group?
I think it's just davidbokman.com. You can get to the men's group. But yeah, if you just type in David Bokman, you'll find me on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm all over the place, but I'm pretty sure davidbokman.com is the men's group stuff. And then bachmaninvestmentgroup.com is for all the real estate stuff that we do. So yeah, anyone that wants to reach out, feel free to reach out.
Awesome, David. Well, it was a pleasure having you on Philly Fortune Talks, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.